from the reading and my thoughts on recovery and deliverance as a form of spiritual formation, and as I read about what he writes about addiction, one of the things that I think of is fasting and the spiritual discipline of fasting and how that is a part of our formation and what it asks us to do. And in fasting, we deny ourselves, we detach, I think is the term he would use in that chapter there. We detach from a need, from a desire, in order to draw closer to God, in order to learn a greater dependence on God's provision and His ability to be there for us even when we're in that moment of deep need. And I think that's what this chapter was talking about, that this is a spiritual formation process, because as we learn to be set free, as we learn to be in recovery and restoration, we learn to depend on God. We see those addictions, we see those areas where perhaps we haven't depended on God fully, and we thus learn to see what He is able to do in our lives and how He is truly able to set us free. And so we see how that works in our own lives, and that forms us spiritually, that teaches us greater dependence, greater trust. And so the next time we come to that moment of needing a change, of needing that transformation, we can remember what God did before, and the hope there is that we then trust Him to do it again, or perhaps we trust Him to do it in a greater way. Now, we see in the Old Testament that the Israelites didn't learn that lesson well, and so there's a caution to us that if God has been there for us time and time again, we need to not doubt Him the next time that's needed. And then I really appreciated what the author says, where he writes that grace is where our hope lies, and he really focuses on grace as the answer to this issue of addiction, and grace is the way that we can recover. Grace is the way that we can be delivered. Grace is where we can find healing, because when we try to grit our teeth and just figure out how to be set free on our own, we just can't quite do it. We have that, some of us perhaps are tough enough on the inside that we can say no to things, and maybe we can even go a long time without that addictive thing, whether it's a substance such as alcohol, or whether it's something like food or pornography, whatever it might be. We might be able to grit our teeth and just tough it out and say no, but nothing has changed. We're still constantly battling that desire, that overwhelming, consuming desire to be a part of this behavior, or to use this as a relief to stress, or to use this as an escape. And what he's writing out about here is that grace can set us free from that consuming, overwhelming desire, that grace is where true deliverance is found, because God's grace can come in and can truly set us free, so that we're not just fighting and gritting our teeth all the time, but we're free from it, that the temptation lessens, the desire subsides, that it's replaced by God. It's replaced by a desire to serve Him. It's replaced by a desire to be His. And that's where the formation comes in, that we are formed then into those who seek after, who follow after Jesus, and less than we seek and follow after Jesus, as opposed to seeking and following after our own desires. Galatians 5 has a verse that talks about this, and Paul encourages us to follow the Holy Spirit, but he mentions there as well that there's this internal battle that begins to wage within us, because our own desires desire to sin. We desire to go in these wrong directions, but the Spirit desires to lead us to healing and wholeness. And so we fight this battle within us when we know we're supposed to change, when we see that deliverance ahead of us, but something that is within us pulls us back. And so Paul's encouragement to us, and I think what this chapter is getting at, and where we're going to head for the semester likely, is seeing that deliverance that God offers us, and seeing that the Spirit offers us that choice. But we have to say yes. We have to move in that direction. We have to be willing to be set free in order to see that grace take over our lives and take over how we feel. So that's my thoughts.